every customer is asking first, how do I get started? I know the technical stuff. I know what I need to be preparing technical wise, but how do I really get started? So few simple steps is follow the crawl, walk, run approach. Start simple. Don't introduce all the complexity, all the rules, all the encryption right from the start. Just start slow. Second important thing is plan. You got to plan in ahead. You got to understand what is the outcome. What do you want to achieve at the end of your project? And you have to plan accordingly. And if there is any change in your plan, make sure you communicate it up, down, to everyone. If you're replacing someone in your team, make sure everyone knows who the new team member, the role of everyone, who's responsible for what, etc. Also, it's super important to understand, to identify what we call project heroes. They'll be able to advocate on your behalf because there are a lot of objections org-wise from everyone. You would never guess who may reject to something. So just make sure you identify these heroes. They will help you in this journey and will help reduce all the objections. Third is prepare. You planned everything, but prepare also for your user awareness. We have a lot of material available for this. They need to understand why they're doing what they're doing, because just going and telling your end users, that's it, we're going to start using information protection, this is what you got to do, they will not understand. I'm not there yet. Oh, yeah, thanks. They will not understand, so they need to understand why they're doing what they're being asked to do. Then you got to prepare and train your help desk, because your end users, as well as trained as they will have questions. Things will not work. They will need some answers. They'd better get them right away. That is the best way to reduce objection in your organization. And last but not least, set clear expectations with your leadership team. Don't oversell. Don't say, hey, we're going to have information protection. We're going to cover data leakage. Everything is going to work fine. Just communicate the gaps, communicate what is going to happen, communicate the timelines, the scenarios you're going to cover. So that will help your leadership understand and not coming back to you and say, oh, you promised everything will work out just fine. So make sure to introduce the good, the bad, and also the ugly. That's fine. That's part of an information protection journey. So we talked about the non-technical side of things, but let's also talk about the technical side of the things. So we always call it the 10 simple steps to get started in your information protection journey. The first one is define what you want to classify, because you don't want to classify everything in your organization. You don't want to classify fun projects, nice to have things. You don't want to do that. Second, where to classify. Do you want to classify only inside Office applications, web applications, SharePoint, emails? Just make sure you know where you want to classify. And then how? Do you want to use auto labeling, default labeling, mandatory labeling, maybe DLP policies to complement, maybe MCAS, Microsoft Cloud App Security? Just define how you're going to do it, and also define conditions. If you want to do it, who's going to do it, scoped, how you want to do it. And then assign the labels to the users and groups, again, going into the scope part. And define access rights. Then create your classification policies. This is great, you created them, but then you got to test them, because you need to make sure that all your assumption, everything you want when it's going live in your production environment, will function exactly as you want it. And then once your tests are done and you're satisfied with the outcome, go ahead and deploy it in your production environment. And last but not least, this is like an ongoing cycle, monitor and then accelerate remediation. And it's so super important to understand that your policies that you defined at first, you may fine tune them, you may add more, you may delete, you may change them. That's okay over time, because as time goes by, you realize that you can either introduce more complexity, more encryption, more robust rules, or you can go ahead because you trust your end users, and that is super fine. So what you're going to start with doesn't necessarily mean that this is what you're going to end with, but as long as you're in the journey and you know what you're doing and you know how you want to do it and you know where you want to get at the end, then you're all done. And last, we have some resources to get you started. We have Deployment Acceleration Guide for MIP and DLP. We have created end user manual training for sensitivity labels. That includes email messages, all the end user announcements, and everything that you can go ahead and tweak and share it in your organization. We have our MIP and DLP webinar series. This is a great series that you can go ahead and watch our latest webinars in that area. You can watch the recording, you can download the deck, you can download Q&A files. And last is we have the scenario-based demo video series. We just released our last episode, episode 11. It covers end-to-end the MIP and DLP journey, and it touches more also on insider risk, on DLP, and also on MIM.